Hey guys, what's up? As promised, I'm gonna start going over the Yellow Vest protests in France, and there's a whole lot to cover. So today, I'm just gonna go over some of the things that started the whole situation. So we'll start with a lot of the taxes that were being raised and instituted that caused the original outrage. And the first one of those taxes is called a TICPE tax, which is a bunch of French words I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, but it's the main tax levied in France on certain energy products, especially those of petroleum origin. So your gas, your plastics, your you know those sorts of things, oil, and that's an excise tax, which is it. The tax is based on the quantity that you purchase and not the value of the product, and it's really where the majority of the price comes for petroleum products. So whenever you buy a petroleum product in France, you're paying more in taxes than you are for the actual product. Uh, the next one is called a value added tax, which is a consumption tax placed on a product whenever value is added at each stage of the supply chain from production to the point of sale. So that's based on consumption rather than your income. So basically, the way that works, uh, every time that it goes through another stage of production, a new tax is added. So say I'm gonna make, I don't know, we'll say I'm gonna sell bottles of water. But in order to get the bottles of water, somebody first has to, own the rights to the water. So there's a tax added for them owning the water. Then the person who makes the bottles adds there's a tax added for that. Then the company that bottles it, there's a tax added, and then when I buy it, there's another tax added, and then whenever you, the consumer, would buy it, there's another tax added. So it places a huge economic strain on the lower income taxpayers in France because it's a whole bunch of taxes added at the end instead of throughout the process. All those taxes are added during each stage of production, but the majority of the tax is paid for by the consumer instead of the producers. And the last form of taxing was a new carbon and diesel tax that was imposed, and originally it was imposed in order to help encourage people to go green, but it heavily affected the people in rural communities who rely on gases or sorry petroleum based products like diesel fuel and things like that, uh, because they need those sort of things to run their machinery. And when you hear France, you probably picture London, but or not London. Sorry, I apologize. You probably picture Paris, but a large portion of France is agricultural, and a lot of it's family farms, not big corporate farms like here in America. So people who rely on big machinery to live and make their money and whatnot are being charged tons in taxes over this. And it doesn't only affect them, but it also affects people who can't afford newer cars that have better gas mileage. They have to pay more and get more gas every day, every week, whatever, and it's an added burden to their wallet. So that's all for the taxes that were imposed and were being raised and whatnot that led to this. Another one of the bigger uh, causes of the Yellow Vest protests was President Macron and his group of people, and a lot of the scandals and such that they were involved in. Now, President Macron is the current president in France, and he's formerly an investment banker. He won the 2017 election, sorry, with 66.1% of the vote. And he used cleaning up the French government and modernizing French banks as his platform. So, his deal was, if I get elected, I'm gonna help clean up the corrupt government and I'm gonna help modernize these banks. I've worked in banking my whole life, and I can help modernize this and make it more usable and suitable. So as of September 2018, I wasn't able to find a more recent statistic. His approval rating dropped down to 29%, which is the lowest it's ever been in French government, as far as I could find in history. Uh, and all that happened after a series of high profile departures from his government and a summer scandal over the firing of his bodyguard. Which is hilarious because he came to power under the promise that he was going to fight against that sort of thing, corruption and whatnot. It started with the Justice Minister Francois Bayrou resigning right hours before Macron announced his new government lineup. Bayrou, along with Defense Minister Sylvie Gouillard, I don't know, guys, sorry, I don't speak French. They resigned due to allegations of using parliamentary funds to pay party workers based in France. And like I said, Macron ran under the guise that he was going to help clean up the French government, and Bayrou, who was involved in this scandal, was responsible for the clean government bill that Macron ran with, promising to clean up France, and that turned out to be bullshit. And then Macron's close ally also stepped down and made allegations that he used insider information to service a lucrative property deal for his wife. I happen to have forgot that name. Sorry about that, guys. So basically what happened there is one of the guys that he's close with in the government, he got some information that he shouldn't have used to his benefit, but he used it to, get a nice property for his wife. Next person to be involved in this isn't a scandal so much, but the Environment Minister Nicolas Hulot resigned on live radio. He claimed the reason was because disappointments in attempts to address climate change and other environmental things. He said he felt alone in government, and it was actually, the decision was made at the last minute on air. He says that Macron nor his wife knew that he was going to do it. He didn't want to tell anyone because he was worried that they'd try to talk him out of it. Now that seems to be the most noble cause of all these people that resigned or whatever. He left because he was trying to make a change and he was being stifled at every turn. And the next one, this is a big one. His security office and deputy chief of staff, Alexandre Bernala. Sorry again, guys, I don't speak French. He stepped down after the newspaper Le Monde identified him in footage impersonating a police officer while beating up a young protester during the 2018 May Day demonstrations. Which, as far as I could tell, were, peaceful protests, but this guy, first of all, was dressed up as a police officer, and he's not a police officer, and beat up this young kid for what seems to be no reason. And then shortly after this all occurred, an online petition was started to begin peaceful protests against the Macron-run French government. So that's where the whole, Yellow Vest movement began, with that petition, and it's spread throughout France and then to other countries and whatnot. And recently, the French government okayed the use of live rounds against them, and I believe in France, as a citizen, you're not allowed to own guns, so it's a pretty unfair fight there. But that's where I'm going to leave off today. Next time, I'm going to go over, what the Yellow Vest protesters want and how they intend to get what they want. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back next week.